Welcome to part 2 of our must-have PS1 RPG series. If your favourite game isn't on the list, it's most likely included in part 1. There's a link to that video down below. The first thing that will strike you about Dragon Warrior 7 is the incredible size of the world that it presents. Sure, the visuals aren't that much to look at and will have the potential to turn some players away, but for those that stick with it, you'll find an exhilarating and rewarding adventure waiting for you. As the player, you take up the role of the unnamed hero who resides on the small island of Estad. You soon find yourself embarking on a journey to ultimately discover the fate of the kingdom that was once a sprawling land. In true Dragon Warrior fashion, battles play a huge role in the proceedings, along with weapons and equipment that dictate the effectiveness of each character. A huge array of both standard attacks and magical abilities are afforded to the player and allow them to tackle each encounter with confidence. But that's not to say that it's going to be easy. At times it can become quite challenging, which results in leveling up and getting to grips with the various attributes that each party member possesses in order to reign victorious. Dragon Warrior 7 is a traditional RPG in every sense of the word, so if that's your thing, it well and truly deserves a place in your collection. Valkyrie Profile manages to mix several genres into one and results in a truly unforgettable experience. It sees players taking up the role of Lenneth, a woman whose job it is to essentially choose fallen heroes and deliver them to heaven. It all ties heavily into Norse mythology and centers around the war of the gods known as Ragnarok. As mentioned, several genres play a key role in the adventure. Traversing primarily takes place from a side-scrolling perspective and involves overcoming several puzzles in order to progress. But what steals the show is the intricate and challenging combat system that manages to add an extra level of strategy than most other RPGs. It all centers around an energy bar that slowly rises the more you attack, with each party member's action being assigned to a face button on the controller. Once the bar hits 100, you have the ability to unleash a variety of finishing moves and chain several together, which soon become a real joy to pull off. The amount of freedom and diversity within the gameplay lets Valkyrie Profile shine, making it a game that well and truly deserves a spot in any RPG fan's collection. Vandal Hearts is an SRPG that sees the player taking command of a unit of characters very much in the vein of the likes of Final Fantasy Tactics or Sudoku. Each character belongs to a specific class, may that be warriors, archers, mages or healers, and each bring their own distinct uses and abilities to the table. The action takes place on a grid-based map, with both the player and enemy taking turns in which to move around the environment and ultimately take down each and every threat. Now, what really makes the experience stand out for me personally is the way in which progression is handled. Once hitting a certain level, you have the option to change class, which adds a nice layer of strategy to the overall concept of building a team, as some classes soon become essential for some of the more challenging battles you'll find yourself presented with. The gameplay is downright incredible, but the linear story and lack of overall difficulty will likely turn some away in favour of the other offerings on the system. But if you're willing to look past some of those aspects, you'll find a truly rewarding adventure waiting for you. Vagrant Story is a dark and atmospheric RPG that possesses one of the most engaging combat systems I've ever had the pleasure of experiencing. When compared to the many RPGs released by Square on the system, Vagrant Story stands out as something truly unique, and the way in which it handles encounters really contributes to this notion. As you progress and acquire new skills, your combos get progressively stronger by adding several abilities into the mix. They can help deal extra damage, with some even draining the enemy's HP over time, for example. Now, the game relies heavily upon the equipment you are carrying and is all the more meaningful thanks to the combination system that allows the player to combine various weapons and transform them into better versions. This all adds up to one of the most intricate and customizable features I've ever seen in an RPG, and one of the game's best aspects. Story-wise, as with most Square RPGs of the era, it is all on point and one of the more memorable parts of the game. Vagrant Story should not be missed. If you haven't got round to playing it yet, it will not disappoint. Jade Cocoon is an RPG that sees the main protagonist, known as Levant, following in his father's footsteps in order to become a cocoon master. The game is set in a lush, vibrant world, with the inhabitants living within secluded villages scattered throughout. Also occupying this world are small bugs known as minions, which can be captured and harnessed to use in battle. In all honesty, Jade Cocoon shares a lot in common with the likes of Pokemon, with each minion having their own set of abilities and elemental advantages as well as weaknesses. But the real highlight of the experience has to be its narrative that manages to explore some very touching themes, such as family, loyalty and hopelessness. It's an unforgettable adventure that will surely stick with you long after the credits have rolled. Luna 2 Eternal Blue sees the player taking up the role of a hero alongside his pet dragon Ruby. After heading to a mysterious tower known as the Blue Spire, the hero gets pulled into a struggle that engulfs the entire kingdom. Now, it has the potential to come across as quite cliche, but the sheer depth of the narrative, its characters and atmosphere is what makes it stand out. As with most RPGs, you'll find yourself exploring the land and visiting a diverse set of locations as well as NPCs that all manage to add a real weight to the world. Each enemy is presented as a small sprite on the map, allowing the player to simply avoid confrontations if they wish to do so. But battles is what sees the game truly come into its own. Each being turn-based in nature, it naturally affords the player several abilities and ways in which to counter threats. From standard attacks, defending and the use of magic or items, there are always plenty of options at your disposal. Now, movement on the field also plays a part during encounters, which has the potential to grant specific advantages which really help out during the more challenging boss battles. Although not without its flaws, Luna 2 Eternal Blue offers up one of the most enthralling RPG adventures on the system and is one that should not be overlooked. Legend of Mana is a highly unique RPG that centers around one simple concept: to essentially shape the world through the use of something known as the landmake system. Instead of focusing upon a linear structure, the player has the option through the use of several artifacts to ultimately build the world they see, and slowly over time unlock the entire kingdom in a way that they want to. The minute-to-minute gameplay sees the player exploring each location and encountering a lovable cast of NPCs along with their chosen companions. Each encounter with enemies are presented in real time, with the player's special abilities being intricately tied to their weapons and equipment. These abilities, known as special techs, can be performed once the move meter is full and grant the player a means in which to take on even the most daunting of adversaries. Now, Legend of Mana quite simply has to be one of the greatest and most creative games that ever came out of Square. If you haven't played it and can manage to find a copy for yourself, it is well and truly worth playing through. Final Fantasy VIII debuted in 1999 and follows a young man named Squall, a student for a school of mercenaries known as Seed. Now, what this installment in the franchise gets so right has to be its story. There are many twists and turns along the way, and although it won't be for everyone, in my opinion it is one of the finest narratives to come out of the series. In true Final Fantasy fashion, there are three modes of play: exploration, the world map, and battles. Each one is turn-based and sees your party members utilizing a wide range of skills, equipment and items that all help even the odds against the staggering amount of diverse enemies. But what really stands out are the Guardian Forces, this game's name for the summoning feature. After each battle, they can earn ability points that contribute to the various skills in which they can learn. They can then be shared amongst your party, allowing them to receive bonuses or attack more efficiently, for example. With a generous campaign and a wide range of side activities as well, Final Fantasy VIII will keep both fans of the genre and newcomers alike busy for days on end. The world of Legend of Legaia sees humanity depending on objects known as Saru, which grant their user the ability to wield magic and incredible powers once worn. But after a mysterious mist engulfs the planet and starts turning the Saru users evil, it is up to 3 heroes to bring an end to it by locating various trees throughout the kingdom that have the power to drive the mist away. What truly makes Legend of Legaia stand out is the incredible turn-based battling system that is highly unique for an RPG. It is all based around abilities known as arts. The player player has the opportunity to essentially chain various attacks together in order to make their own combo, and when the time is right, they can unleash these abilities that can level enemies in a flash. Magic, on the other hand, requires something known as a Ra-Suru. It has the ability to essentially assimilate monsters as well, which then in turn can be used to fight by your side in future battles. It's a great system, and it all comes together to create one of the defining aspects of the experience. If Legend of Legaia passed you by back in the day, you owe it to yourself to try it out. Just like the first two games in the series, the player once again takes up the role of Ryu, a man who belongs to a race of people known as the Brood, who have the ability to transform themselves into powerful dragons. Joining Ryu on his quest are several other fellows that all have their own distinct characteristics and attributes that help them stand out both in and outside of battle. It's all turn-based in nature and affords the player a wide range of abilities, ranging from standard attacks to devastating magical moves, which can all be learned over the course of the game through something known as the Master System. It essentially allows the player to apprentice under several NPCs, which can influence their individual stats as well as skills. It's a neat little feature that essentially allows the player to craft each character in a way that they see fit. But in battle, it is not only your abilities that matter. Formation plays a huge part during each encounter and can result in certain tactical benefits that can really help out in tight situations. Breath of Fire 3 often gets overshadowed by the various other RPGs on the system, but do not let this gem go unplayed. Well, that does it for today's video. Don't forget to hit subscribe to stay up to date on future videos, and as always, thanks for watching.